So the next topic I want to jump into would be the topic of toners. I always feel like toners are very poorly understood. A little bit of a mystery step. People have often used a toner before. They've heard of a toner. They usually have at least one random toner stashed somewhere. But do they actually know what it's supposed to do? Usually not. So I always refer to toner as the sad and forgotten step of skincare. Just for the simple fact that people have absolutely no idea what it does. But toner actually has a very specific job and a very important job that is fairly critical, I would say, to the health and function of the skin, and affects it a lot as far as how comfortable it feels for you. A lot to do with something we call the acid mantle of the skin. I have found it's very rare that somebody I am working with has ever heard of the skin term acid mantle before they started working with me. It's a pretty basic concept, and also something important for people to understand. Essentially, what the acid mantle is this invisible barrier that sits right over the surface of your skin. And it is there to keep your skin strong, keeps it protected. It's very useful. We definitely want that to be in place for us. But the caveat is, in order for it to be in place, the pH of our skin has to sit in a very specific range on that pH scale. So I know when we were talking about moisturizer, we had touched on the pH scale, that kind of 1 to 14, anything higher than a 7 is alkaline, anything lower is more acidic, and that the skin wants to be in that acidic range. And so its happy zone, again, is a 4.5 to 5.5 on that scale. And so in order for the acid mantle to be in place, that's where the skin pH needs to be. When the skin has the right acidity, then your acid mantle is firmly in place. One of the big issues is that when we rinse our skin with water, which is a pH of 7, or if we're cleansing with cleanser, which is a much higher pH than 7, that this is shifting the pH of the surface of the skin outside of its comfort zone. And when that happens, that acid mantle is no longer supported, and so it's broken down and removed, and we don't have that protection. And so when your acid mantle is gone and the pH is wonky, what our body does is it tries to get your attention to let you know, hey, there's a problem. So usually the way the body gets the attention of us is by making us uncomfortable, because that's what speaks to us. And so your skin is going to suddenly feel really tight and dry and uncomfortable. And that is how your skin communicates that. So you can think of this like your body's saying, hey, my acid mantle's gone. Can you fix that, please? I would like to have that protective layer back in place. But because we don't understand what that communication means, we're not responding appropriately. And so instead of putting a toner on, which is going to help correct that problem, people are reaching for like a lotion or a cream just to alleviate this discomfort that they're feeling. So what toner does is it pushes the pH back down that pH scale into its comfort zone, its happy zone. And so once it pushes it back into that 4.5 to 5.5 range, then that is going to enable your skin to rebuild the acid mantle and put that protective layer right back where we want it to be, versus leaving it unprotected and feeling really dry and uncomfortable. So one thing I like to remind clients is that we should never be running around without our acid mantles on, because it's kind of inappropriate. Let's keep it on, people. Let's not be out and about without our protective barrier on our skin. When we don't help push that pH down, it actually takes a long time for the skin to rebuild it on its own without that assistance. It can take up to 14 hours, and within 14 hours, you're going to be rinsing or cleansing again. So one of the things I love about toner is that it's a really easy step to do, right? It's not complicated, it's not tricky, there's nothing preventative about it that would make it hard for somebody to use toner. But yet it makes such a big difference in how our skin is going to look and feel and function for us, and how happy our skin is going to be. So, you know, that's probably just my favorite thing about toner, is the ease plus the benefit. So as far as how to use toner goes, toner should always be done twice a day, regardless of what kind of skin you have, and regardless of whether or not you're cleansing once or twice a day. Just always have that routine of toning every morning and every evening to keep that barrier strong and to keep that pH balanced and in that comfort zone. So I apply toner with 2x2 12-ply medical gauze, very specific. I strongly dislike the cotton rounds, cotton squares that people often will use. One, they absorb all your product and you go through it really fast, which is just wasteful. Two, that cotton can leave like little bits of debris that's kind of hard for your skin to eliminate. And I always tell people, once you go gauze, you'll never go back. One thing just to mention when you're using the gauze is you want to apply with what I call a gentle but firm swiping motion. But the purpose of the gauze is not to exfoliate your skin. So you should not be aggressive, be using a lot of friction, just swiping over the skin, laying that toner in nice and evenly with enough pressure to put it in the skin, but not too much to where you're exfoliating your skin. As far as toners available to use, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of what's out there. I feel like a lot of times the reason why people have pulled away from toner is just because they've had bad experiences with toner. And so because of the entire point of using a toner, which is to adjust that acidity level, the majority of toners will rely on ingredients like witch hazel and alcohol. Now, technically speaking, can those ingredients push your pH down the scale? Yes, they can. So they will get the job done. Unfortunately, at the same time, this is often creating a lot of irritation, like underlying irritation of the skin, which we already mentioned, that can start this irritation inflammation cycle, right? And so I just find it's a good general rule in life or skincare to not cause a new problem while you're trying to fix an old problem. I think that about wraps up toner. I'm not going to go into, again, any toners I do recommend. I will say I don't recommend anything that is readily available out there. I have something very unique that I use. But hopefully this is helpful just to give people more understanding on why they experience that discomfort and that tightness and that communication signal that they're getting from the skin. And now you know what the skin is saying and how to respond to it. So just a general recap, in case you're starting in the middle of my videos. We have so far discussed the topic of moisturizer, cleanser, and toner, as well as some other odds and ends mixed in along the way. So if you've missed any of those previous videos, I really do recommend just starting at the beginning, because everything will make more sense if you do